Okay, call the meeting to order. Our February meeting of the Tellico Village Board of Directors. Thank you all for coming. What we have decided to do is to divert a little bit from our agenda because we think we know why most of you are here. But can only do that if I've got to place a time limit on any discussions that we have afterwards, so we'll just kind of see how that goes. But what we're going to do is we're going to review the minutes from the last meeting. Then Steve Schneider has something to share with everybody. It's been a question on a lot of people's minds. We've been getting a lot of comments, so we're going to go to that. Then we're going to go to the revisions, the proposed revisions to the ACC Blue Book, and then we'll go to the political flag discussion. Now, I know the rest, you'll probably want to stay for the entire meeting, but it'll be up to you. So with that, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of our January meeting? Pat, Rick, second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor of the minutes as written? 7-0. And we also have John Arguellas on Zoom. So just so you all know, one of the 7 is not physically present. Okay, next we're going to go to Steve Schneider. And basically what Steve wants to present is we've been getting a lot of questions, and there's been lots of discussion about this guy's compensation. It's all public information, so we want everybody to have the right information. So Steve put it all together and is going to walk us through that.
Thank you, Marty. Afternoon, everybody. As Marty mentioned, I've been asked several times, received phone calls, letters, some letters with attitudes about this man's total compensation based upon publicly available information. So I decided, what the hell, I'll go to the publicly information, all the information online that you have access to, put it in a spreadsheet so I can dispel this misinformation that this man makes more money than the President of the United States. So I'm going to go through it, show you where you can find this information, answer a few questions. But before I get started, I need to see a show of hands. How many of you in the audience know about, understand, and have seen 457 deferred compensation plans and the impact on taxable income? So there's a few. So that's what this is all about. So to start out, I went straight to the Form 990, which is an annual informational. There you go. What that means is that's taxable income. So on the 990 form, you can see the taxable income, 119, 117, and all of a sudden in 2020, it jumps to 356. Boy, the board must have given him a hell of an increase in his taxable income. Let's go to the next item on your 990. It's in Section A, Item F, estimated amount of other compensation from the organization. And you can see it runs between 90 and 100, and I'll cover what that is in a minute. So you add those numbers together, and you get a grand total runs from 214 all the way up to 466 in 2020. Oh my God, we've gone crazy. Let's go to Form 990, Schedule J, Part 2. Let's break down Item B on Part 2. Talks about a breakdown of the W-2, which means taxable income. Compensation runs about 92 to 100,000. Bonuses about 21. Other reportable compensation. That would be car allowance because he has a company car, and what's called a 457 plan vesting. Well, let me stop there and tell you what a 457 plan is. It's very similar to a 401k plan. Most of you folks have got a 401k plan, I assume, or have seen them. That's where you can take current taxable income, put it in a 401k plan, you don't pay tax on it till you take it out. So you're deferring your tax payments. 457 plan is out there for what's considered by the IRS a highly compensated employee. There are rules and regs as to who can participate in a 401k plan and who can't participate. If you are highly compensated, you cannot participate to the maximum of your salary. So what happens is the board in previous years established a 457 deferred compensation plan. So the highly compensated employee could defer taxes just like everybody else does in a 401k plan. However, if you defer it, you don't pay tax on it, but in this case, this 457 plan vests every 3 years. This contract was signed in 2016, November. You've got 2017, 2018, 2019. Those funds going into that deferred retirement plan, the 457 plan, vested January 1st of 2021. So all that deferred retirement became taxable on January 1st. Thus, you see the $232,000 showing up as taxable income in 2020 because of that vesting. You have non-taxable benefits, which are basically insurance coverage for medical. So there's your grand total, 214. It all ties out to your 990 with a maximum of 466 in 2020, all caused by the vesting of that deferred pension. If you go down to the summary of your annual compensation and get away of those tax affecting of deferred comp, you can see the base comp, your bonuses, the contributions that were put into the 457 plan in lieu of taking it as salary, as defined in footnotes number 9 and number 10. So if you go to your audited statements and read your footnotes, it's spelled out there how much is deferred and how much is in lieu of and how much the POA puts in. You add back in the 457 or 401k matching by the POA, your total compensation cash, either put into a plan or received into the 401k plan, you're looking at 190 to 218. For anyone that thinks that you get paid $400,000, that's a taxable event. So in a nutshell, the difference between what some folks have interpreted to be annual income of $440,000 is just the delay of 3 years of vesting of a 457 or a 401k plan. That event will happen again on January 1st, 2023, because you've got what was put into the 457 plan in 2020, 2021, and this year, 2022, so you'll see another bump in that taxable income hit again in the 990 for 2023. And then another sidekick that if you wanted to reconcile this to see the numbers work out, simply go to your audited balance sheets, which again are on the POA website, totally available to all property owners, and take a look at what's called a deferred compensation plan liability account. There's also an offsetting asset account, which ticks and ties exactly to the same number. And you can see it started out with an ending balance of $76,000. It grows to $146,000, $227,000 because that's the contributions to the deferred plan. And then all of a sudden in 2020, you can see there was a $133,000 reduction in that liability. Reason being, it vested. Those assets went to the general manager as part of the 457 vesting, and that's why he has to pay taxes on it. So other than that, that's all I wanted to share with you, is to try to dispel the misinformation that I've heard about, read about, get calls about. This is what the total comp is, and it's all available. Any property owner can put this together. It's off the 990 in your financial statements. That's all I got, Marty.
All right, thanks, Steve. Okay, with that, let's move on to Kevin and the ACC Blue Book revisions.
Thank you, Marty, and good afternoon, everybody. The proposed revisions to the ACC Residential Construction Handbook, also known as the Blue Book, are on the agenda today for board approval. By way of background, the ACC conducts an annual review of its Blue Book provisions, which are the handbook for residential construction within Tellico Village. As part of that annual review, it evaluates potential modifications and enhancements to the existing rules. During this process, the ACC conducted a number of workshops and reviewed various provisions, and also considered any advances or changes in construction or materials so that it can ensure that its Blue Book is up to date and accurate and provides a fair and reasonable guide for construction within Tellico Village. After the ACC proposed some draft language, the board conducted a preliminary review in October of 2021. Thereafter, the ACC went back, reviewed, and ultimately voted to approve proposed modifications at its meeting in January of 2022. The proposed revisions themselves have been posted on the POA website and also advertised within the Telegram for a number of weeks now. I did want to provide a very high-level summary of the proposed revisions for those that haven't reviewed them and to give a basic understanding of the provisions that are being revised and the basis for doing so. And again, I'm going to focus in on just the high-level substantive revisions to the Blue Book. But Section 3A deals with meeting participation. That was something the ACC felt was important to require contractor meeting participation. The ACC felt they needed the presence of a contractor with authority to address permitting issues as a mandatory requirement for issuance of a permit. So it's now expressly set forth in the Blue Book that if a contractor is not present, the permit request will be automatically rejected without prejudice. This provision also encourages property owner participation in the meetings because the ACC thinks it's important for those property owners that are permitting homes to be present for their own meeting to better understand the process and the permit requirements. The next section deals with stormwater and drainage control. The ACC felt the need to improve silt fencing materials and the installation protocol in order to comply with updated TDEC standards. That should better control stormwater and runoff during the construction process. The next section, substantive revision, deals with clear cutting and tree removal prior to construction. The ACC had experienced situations where contractors or property owners had clear-cut lots prior to obtaining a permit. And so the ACC wanted to put in firm consequences for clear cutting prior to permitting. And there will now be a $2,500 automatic cost recovery charge from the ACC that will be imposed on all contractors or property owners that clear cut prior to obtaining a permit, in addition to any requirements the ACC may impose to put trees back or otherwise replace the natural landscape. With respect to retaining walls, the ACC is now requiring that they meet building codes. Previously, the ACC required a letter of an engineer be submitted to the ACC. However, it felt that evaluating the structural integrity of retaining walls was not within the purview of the ACC, and rather that should be handled by building codes and inspectors within the county where the property is being constructed. Section 5B, the ACC wanted to enhance a few of the exterior elevation requirements, particularly with side elevations. They felt that there needed to be additional architectural details on side elevations instead of just a long blank wall. So the ACC is putting in requirements for specific architectural details on side elevations for every 24 linear feet of construction. Okay, we'll try.
Stereo.
Okay, we'll try Pat's. So again, these are enhancements for additional architectural detail requirements on side and rear elevation. Landscaping structures. The ACC, based on experience, felt the need to include art installations within the scope of existing landscape structural rules, and therefore has included parameters for the maximum size and number of art installations on a given property. The ACC has included some additional requirements now that final grade and engineered drainage plan requirements be completed at the time of date of final inspection. And if they are not, the ACC will charge cost recovery for any return trips so that the ACC can ensure at the time of final inspection all elements of the project are completed. Section 7A. Yes, excuse me. Yes, Section 7A. There are some additional requirements relative to artificial turf. Previously, artificial turf had been expressly prohibited in all circumstances. Now there are certain limited circumstances in which it is permitted and minimum requirements for any installation. However, the ACC has sole and absolute discretion under when and where artificial turf can be installed. The final proposed revision from the ACC dealt with the definition of a sign under Section 7E of the Blue Book. The ACC had concerns with this definition of a sign, feeling it was overly broad and subjective. However, the board has evaluated that, and this particular provision or deletion of the definition will not be included with this revision of the ACC Blue Book. The board did not see the need to strike that provision. That being said, that is a high-level summary of all of the proposed revisions to the Blue Book. Again, it's been approved by the ACC. The board has now reviewed, and the proposed revisions have been circulated to the public. So I would now entertain a motion to approve the proposed revisions as discussed.
So moved.
Moved by Rick, seconded by Pat. So the motion on the floor is to accept the ACC Blue Book revisions except for the definition of signs.
Within 7E, that's correct.
So is there any discussion on the board? Any comments from any of the residents? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Kevin, before we jump into the next one, why don't you just go ahead and handle your first bullet point, since it's on there? And
This pertains to a proposed bylaw amendment. Again, this has been circulated and noticed for quite some time now. There are specific notice requirements in the bylaws which require that actual notice of any proposed provisions be mailed 30 days prior to the meeting at which they're considered. Historically, the board has included any proposed bylaw revisions with the mailing of its quarterly board reports to save postage. It was determined and discovered after that process that in the interim, some individuals have opted out of mailing and now receive the quarterly reports via email. So as a result, we had to start the mailing process for roughly 1,700 people that had opted into receiving email notices. We, upon doing so, immediately prepared and mailed notices, but due to a mail or U.S. Postal Service holiday in the interim, we didn't quite meet the 30-day standard for approval today. So therefore, this matter will be considered at the March meeting, at which time all property owners will have received written notice of all proposed bylaw revisions. So we'll address that for approval and discuss the substance at the March meeting.
okay, thank you. So the next item up is political flags. I'll introduce the topic and I'll turn it back over to Kevin. So at last month's board meeting, resident Cheryl Payton presented to the board regarding political flags. We said we'd take this under advisement. And I did get some feedback on next door, thankfully, for saying that.
You think?
All positive. So since then, we've received many cards and letters from residents, and they have been discussed at length among the board. We have also engaged our legal counsel, Mr. Kevin Stevens, and he's now going to present the legal opinion.
And again, this is, I'll be reading from a prepared opinion and statement. This statement will also be available and published in the future through other mediums. But I'll go ahead and proceed. The POA Board has recently received a number of property owner comments and questions regarding the display of flags in Tellico Village that are political in nature. The Board has spent a great deal of time evaluating this important issue and interpreting the applicable provisions of Tennessee law and the POA governing documents. The Board's primary objective in this evaluation is to ensure that the POA is in compliance with Tennessee law and is correctly and consistently enforcing the requirements of the POA's governing documents. To begin with, the Tennessee Freedom of Speech Act, found at Tennessee Code Annotated Section 27143, which I'll refer to as the Act, was enacted by the Tennessee Legislature in 2017 to provide certain limitations upon the ability of a property owners association to restrict the display of political signs on private properties during time periods around both primary and general elections. Accordingly, in 2018, the POA Board adopted a political sign policy which comports with the Act and which establishes criteria for the display of political signs in Tellico Village. Specifically, the POA political sign policy provides reasonable rules regarding the permitted duration of display, size, and number of political signs. A copy of the POA political sign policy is available on the POA website for reference. However, the Act does not include flags of a political nature within the scope of its regulation. Rather, the only Tennessee statutory provision which regulates the display of flags on private properties is found at Tennessee Code Annotated Section 6627-602. This statute restricts property owners association from prohibiting the display of the flag of the United States of America or any branch of the United States Armed Forces on private properties. Like the Act, this statute similarly does not address the display of flags that are political in nature. Based upon the foregoing Tennessee statutory provisions, it's evident that the Tennessee Legislature draws a clear distinction between political signs and flags. Aside from the foregoing Tennessee statutory provisions, the POA governing documents have also been taken into consideration. Section 19 of the Protective Covenants of the Declaration of Covenants and Restrictions for Tellico Village expressly prohibits all signs on private properties in Tellico Village other than street signs, POA signs, and signs for the sale of properties. Thus, the declaration reflects a clear intent that the POA regulates signs in Tellico Village. However, there is no provision in the POA governing documents which restricts in any manner the display of flags, including politically oriented flags, on private properties in Tellico Village. Based upon the foregoing, the POA Board has determined that neither Tennessee law nor the POA governing documents provide any direct legal basis for the POA to enact new restrictions to regulate the content of flags on private properties in Tellico Village. The law is clear in Tennessee that property owners associations such as the POA are only authorized to enforce restrictions which are contained within their governing documents. Therefore, because the POA governing documents do not contain any restrictions regarding flags, there is no direct legal basis for the POA to enact new restrictions to regulate the content of flags on private properties in Tellico Village. After thorough evaluation, the POA Board believes that its existing political sign policy is consistent with Tennessee law and the POA's governing documents. While the POA is not authorized to enact new restrictions regarding flags that are political in nature, the POA certainly encourages all villagers to give fair consideration to their neighbors. The POA understands the current divisiveness of political discourse in this country and sincerely hopes that villagers will be respectful of the views and opinions of others.
Please. All right, thank you. Please respect this is a board meeting. I appreciate it. Kevin, did you have another comment that we had?
There is an additional comment aside from the scope of the existing political sign policy and, of course, the statutes in Tennessee relative to political signs. The POA does have other enforcement mechanisms through which it can regulate nuisance conduct under Section 23 of the Protective Covenants. Section 23 provides that no obnoxious or offensive activity shall be carried on upon any lot or parcel of land on the project. Such activity could be such a nuisance conduct has found to include profanity or other expletive language on signs in the past in Tennessee law. So although the political sign policy may not address all issues or questions that are raised, there are other mechanisms of enforcement through which the POA has some ability to regulate certain conduct within Tellico Village.
Thank you. So I want to reiterate what Kevin just said. This community has grown and thrived over 35 years without onerous restrictions on anything or everything that may be considered offensive to someone. We all need to be more considerate. Considerate of neighbors and the types of flags we display, considerate of how we address each other, and considerate of others in the way we communicate, both verbal and written. There should be no room for personal attacks or vitriol, which often seem to be allowed and even encouraged in today's discourse. Social media certainly enables this, and we see it almost every day on Nextdoor as it pertains directly to us. Seeking to improve our community by building people up rather than tearing them down may sound Pollyannish or naive, but we all should try to live and encourage this. Tellico Village is a great place to live, and we all need to do our part to keep it that way without adding more and more restrictions. Now, this is the third time this issue has come to the board in the past 3 to 4 years. The legal opinion and the board stance has been consistent. So that's the board's position. Do we have any other comments from the board? Do we have any comments from the residents? I see a hand up. Please come to the microphone. Is the microphone on?
Hello, thank you for giving me the opportunity. Something Kevin said is about respect of your neighbors. And there is a flag flying in Tellico Village, 325 Bokoshi Circle. I think you all know about it. Trump won, Democrats cheated. That last line, maybe Kevin, you can clarify, to me seems like a verbal assault. I did not cheat, okay? Democrats did not cheat, it's been proven. So I think that sign is in poor taste. Yeah, I know. Keep watching Fox News.
All right, gang. Hey, please. Hey, I'm sorry, but
I am making my point.
this is back to what I had said earlier. Let's please be courteous to each other and respectful. And if we can't, we will end the discussion. I'm sorry, but we
I
just
just-
got to keep civil.
Wonder, in the POA board's opinion, if that is a respectful flag to be flying in Tellico Village.
You know, while we certainly encourage everyone to be respectful of one another, and that's obviously everyone's objective and should be everyone's objective in the room, we have to look at the rules and regulations of the governing documents. And so the standard is not whether or not something is respectful, but whether or not something is a nuisance. And so that would be the evaluation on a case-by-case basis.
I understand that, but I asked a direct question of the board. As Tellico Village residents, do you find that that's a respectful flag to be flying?
Personally, I ignore them.
You ignore them, okay,
Yeah.
but they're in your
All of
face
them.
all the time.
Wait, no. Hey,
Please.
hey, he's asked you twice, please. We don't clap each other while we're sitting in here and we don't deserve your applause while we're sitting in here. So please, let's get on with this discussion. My point is, I don't look at any of them. I'm a happy guy that goes through life, gets through with board meetings, gets recorded on this, goes back, reads next door how I smiled all during the board meeting. Bless my heart. There's the camera over there that's looking at me, and I'm going to smile all through the rest of my days, and I'm going to have my wife push my face up in my casket. I don't look at any of it. I'm not letting it bother me. And my wife does, and what bothers her doesn't bother me. But why is the flag there? I'll let you answer that. Why did you put it out there? Why are you trying to raise the ire of your neighbors? Why are you trying to push a point that you can't make me vote Democrat or Republican? But I moved here with my religion and my race and everything, my core values moved here with me. You can't change my mind. You want to make me vote Democrat if you're a Republican? You want to make me vote Republican if you're a Democrat? Don't put a sign by me, a steak and a glass of wine. Did I answer your question?
Not really, but that's okay, I understand. Well,
All right.
that's your
Thank you.
opinion. Okay, thank you.
Back there. I think so.
Okay. Give me a mic check.
Okay. All right, real simple. I did a lot of preparation before I came here tonight. I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night, and I binged 20 episodes of Law and Order. So I feel prepared. I just want to say this. Tellico Village is a great community. I love what you put up on the board there, explaining that the bylaws that we have. When I moved here, I read the bylaws. There were things that I liked, and there were things that I didn't like. But I still chose to move here. We live in a free country. I own 1/4 of this massive world that we live in. I don't believe that we should be telling one another how to live unless we're offensive or abusive in some way, shape, or form. Signs and words do not, in my opinion, rise to that level, because I hear things all day long that offend me in this country. But I live in this country because it's a great country. I live in this neighborhood because it's a great neighborhood. But I also live in a free country. And my First Amendment rights to speak my peace of mind, whether it offends you or not, as long as it doesn't physically harm you or abuse you in any way, is my right. And there's no POA, there's no association out there that can change that law. That's a constitutional right that we all have. Freedom of speech. I have to listen to things I don't like. I hear things. I have to live under laws that I don't like and I don't agree with. But I'm not trying to put restrictions on anybody. I believe that we should all get along. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. That's what we need in this world. That's what this neighborhood needs. So let's try to look at it from that perspective. And I agree 100%, Pat. If you see something you don't like, just move past it. Just move past it. Thank you for your time. Appreciate what you guys all do up there, and I appreciate everything you've done.
Thank you. Yeah, you can sit there.
As you may remember, I addressed you last month. My name is Cheryl Payton. I would like to respond to the previous comment regarding the First Amendment. And I'd just like to make the statement that is clear. In fact, I'll quote the Attorney General of the state of Tennessee just to bring it more to home. First of all, a legal claim for freedom of speech violations requires a state action, and courts across the land have held that community associations are not state actors and therefore not subject to prohibitions against restrictions of speech. As our Attorney General, State of Tennessee said, in holding that an individual brought a Freedom of Speech Act violation who was not allowed to campaign door to door in a planned community, the Attorney General wrote, accordingly, homeowners associations, like other private entities, are not covered or restricted by the First Amendment. They may enact their preferred policies about political canvassing or solicitation without constitutional scrutiny. This is a private entity, so it's a moot point, First Amendment rights. What I'd like to say, I'll be as brief as I can. So the word there is, or political canvassing or solicitation without constitutional scrutiny. The paragraph that I cited in my argument, that there already is language that covers the prohibition of political flags, is section E7E, using the word that no device definition in a dictionary is a thing manufactured for a specific purpose, would cover as an umbrella term anything that somebody might think of that might draw attention, as the rest of the paragraph, to a person, I'm paraphrasing, institution, activity, person, institution, business, or solicitation. In other words, that's covered in that paragraph that you're now leaving in place, fortunately. What I'd like to point out, I agree with Counselor that, and the President, that, we all want to act civilly and keep good neighborly feelings in our neighborhoods. And that goes with the appearance as well. What I'd like to point out is there are many restrictions in Tellico Village, as in any planned community, regarding the appearance of the neighborhoods and the particular properties therein. And there are many, if you read the Blue Book, which I have, all 50 some odd pages, practically on every page, I think you will find the objective of a POA or HOA is to protect property values. To do this, they try to make everything harmonious, refer to it as the ambiance of the neighborhood, to protect and maintain a rural, I think it says in the Blue Book, atmosphere. There are so many external restrictions regarding appearance, for instance, that are violations, bright colors, hanging gutters, loose shingles, etc. There are landscaping provisions that, a tree has to be 1.5-inch caliper at the 48-inch height. There are all sorts of good, I think, that's why we live in a planned community, good restrictions and regulations so that our property values are maintained and we like the look of our neighborhoods. One of the big prohibitions in the Blue Book repeatedly regarding appearance of property is you can't use bright colors, right? They are to be muted, earth-like, internally harmonious, and harmonious with the rest of your neighborhood. You can't have a fountain in your front yard or an arbor or any other kind of landscape structure because it's disharmonious. So it doesn't make any common sense that you could have a brightly colored political flag that may or may not contain vulgar language. There's a euphemistic banner currently hanging in the village. We all know what it means. Let's go, Brandon. That's a euphemism for a vulgar term. So what I'm trying to say is the whole concept of a village such as ours is to maintain civility, good neighborliness, and a harmonious look, which is totally destroyed by a gaudy flag flapping in somebody's, off somebody's garage. And in the Blue Book, you can't even have a pile of boxes or other material against a window inside your house that can be seen from the street. So it just doesn't make any sense to allow, as I say, gaudy or divisive, certainly. It's divisive to one person or another. You don't simply just drive by. And that paragraph is very important to maintain a lack of any kind of endorsement that is your personal right to have, but not display in your front yard, as we don't display many things in our front yard to disturb the beauty and the rustic ambiance of our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to take just a few more because we have a full agenda that we need to get through. Mike. Go ahead, Mike. I'm going to take Mike and then one more. Mike first and then one more.
Thank you. My name is Mike Blackwell. I just wanted to speak briefly to this issue, and I hope make things a little bit easier for everyone. And I want to preface my remarks by saying that although I may be 180 degrees diametrically opposed to some of your expressions of your own thoughts and views, I would fight to the death to defend your right to express them. That's what this country is about. I firmly believe in that. So with that in mind, my remarks are about this community as a whole. As I sit here today and I look at these 7 uncompensated volunteers who I know spend countless hours and sacrifice other things. I mean, some of these guys would rather be golfing right now, but they've committed to their community, and it's a big sacrifice. They are important in this community. They are an important part of the social fabric of Tellico Village. Kevin Stevens is an important, critically important part of the fabric of this village. His expertise and insight into issues like this are critically important to what goes on here. Winston Blazer, our general manager, CEO, is a critically important piece of the social fabric of this community. He oversees and executes the strategic plans that the board put before him for the development and the organization of our community. Those of us who have political leanings to the right of center are important, critically important parts of the social fabric of this community that we all share, as are those who have political leanings to the left. Each of us is important to the social fabric of this community. None of us is as important as all of us. When we stifle one party, we stifle all parties. Thank you.
One more, please.
Well, many people here are concerned about the civil liberty of free speech.
Sir,
But-
can you tell us your name, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, Carl Kadams. Free speech here on the streets, anywhere, is prohibited when it proposes violence. And my concern in coming here today is that I'm concerned about a large section of our political life that declared that the violence perpetrated against us on January 6th was that violence has been declared a politically appropriate response to your differences, so that I'm concerned about when my safety is jeopardized because they believe that their political discussion involves my blood. And you can cry all you want, but December 6th was violent, and it's being accepted as political discourse. And I don't want that kind of political discourse in my neighborhood. That's all
All
I
right,
have to say.
thank you. Thank you very much. All right, that concludes this section of the meeting. We're going to go back to our normal, back to the top of the minutes. So it's up to you if you want to continue to stay and listen to the rest of it. But we certainly would encourage it, as Sue just said. All right, let's continue. Let's take 1 minute, so whoever wants to leave can leave, and then we'll continue on. Sit down, or please, we need to close the door so we can continue our meeting. Thank you. All right, let's continue on. We are at board meeting goal action plans, and we're going to start with Rick on the GM CEO replacement.
Okay, so as many of you know, we've been involved in recruiting the replacement for Mr. Blazer. And by the way, he keeps telling us the sooner the better. The current search team consists of myself, Steve Schneider, and Marty Inkrot. However, all of the board members will be involved in the interview process. We're in the process of developing standardized interview formats, and we're proceeding with the plan that we developed in 2021. In Q2 21, we completed the job description and the search specification. We completed a compensation survey in Q4 of 2021. Also in Q4, we identified key competencies based on the opinions of each board member. We had a job posting that we finalized and put out in January. It was posted at the Community Association Institute website, and it was also posted on a more traditional recruiting site, Indeed. The CAI is probably the source of the better kind of candidates for us, because that's the people that are members of that. The resume flow through yesterday is that we've received 21 resumes. 7 possible targets have been identified, which is a hit rate of 33%, which is actually pretty high. And we still have resumes coming in. Upcoming activities, the search team will review the possibles and schedule screening interviews. If the possibles don't measure up, we will retain a search firm in March. And we've been avoiding that because the cost of a search firm is 30% of the whole first year's compensation, which would probably be $60,000 to $75,000. But we will do that if that's what's required. And it's in the budget. We will finalize interview formats and train board members. We'll interview the finalists. We'll develop a job offer. And the objective is to bring in the CEO replacement by the third quarter of this year. And that person will spend some time with Winston, getting to know the lay of the land. So that's my report.
Thank you, Rick. Steve, reserve fund valuation?
Okay, just as a highlight, the reserve fund valuation, the targets are by the end of June that we will have the third-party contractor, which we have already signed the contract with, to complete the analysis and the valuation of our reserve funds. Once we have that report in June, the board will have to review it, and we'll have to decide at what percentage do you want to fund that reserve balance. So as an example, we could find that the reserve fund, if you were to fund it 100%, let's say, might be $50 million. Well, no HOA or POA in the world would fund it 100%. Typical funding levels are between 30 and 50%. So let's say if you had $50 million is what you needed to 100%, we decide that the target is 30% funding. That would say 30% times 50 million. You need to have a reserve balance of $15 million at all times. So that's the next step. And the target date for us to determine that will be at the end of September, which then feeds into the annual budget and 10-year plan, because depending on what that target balance is, when you compare that to where we're at, I think today we'll see later on, I think our reserves are $10 or $11 million. So we'll know if we have to keep increasing. I'm hoping that maybe we've got our reserves where they need to be. You just need to maintain. But we won't know that till we go through the budget season. And so obviously that's December. And then what else is critical is we're sitting on $10 to $11 million of cash for our reserve funds, which is fiduciary, that's financial responsibility, and we're taking, which is very positive. The issue is, what do you do with that cash? So we're going to review our investment policies to make sure that we are investing that in a safe way, but also making sure we're getting more than less than 1% interest return on a CD or whatever. Because if you think about it, let's suppose our reserves need to be at 15 million. If you could just get 5%, and that return gets fed back into your reserves, I could foresee a time where, almost like an endowment, your returns keep funding for your depletions, and the returns replenish your reserves. So that's the final step, which would be in the third, fourth quarter. We come up with a revised investment strategy for our reserve funds. That's the update.
All right, thanks, Steve. Next one is to review the major TVPOA service and supplier contracts. Pat?
You want the 20-minute version or the 3-minute version?
3, please.
Okay, good deal. All right. Okay. So, there's at least a dozen or more of long-term contracts that we've had, and in the last year, what we've done is we've decided that this is the year that that we're going to go back and pull those contracts and look at them. And just to give you a couple of examples, we have Jacobs Engineering that works with us on our major items such as water and sewer, helping us analyze systems for current use as well as help us predict future needs, pressure requirements, and maintaining flows. AWE obviously helping us with our restaurants. Tennessee Dirt Works is the company that comes out and digs up that sewer line that gets clogged in the middle of the night. They work for us 24/7. They help us put in the pumping stations, and they do all kinds of dirt work for us. We have Kennerly, Montgomery, and Finley. Proud guy over here is our attorney group that's under this group. Sweetwater Valley and Oil, we've got to buy oil and gas from somebody, and that's who we get it from, Collins Tree Services. When you call and say that the tree on the common property is leaning, we have people that come out and cut that, trim that, and move that for us. And then we have mowing services that trim easement, and then and as a wrap-up, last year, the POA board decided that a regular review of all the contracts should occur. We have a date of June of this year to go through those. This review in no way means that the current service providers will be changed, but what we've seen is that as the Tellico Village grows, many of the services provided are moved in-house. They're reduced, and in some instances expanded, and at all times we're looking for the best available service, the lowest possible cost, all being reasons to review these long-term contracts. I can go on if you wish.
Thank you, Pat. All right, land use plan, Winston and Sue, and/or, I'm not sure who's speaking.
Thank you, Marty. Met with the managers last week. We reviewed all the lands available for potential in the associations. The purpose for meeting with the managers was basically to review with them mainly all the CCI property and the limited amount of POA lands that are available. And it was one of those speak now or forever hold your peace. So people like Chris Sykes and Simon Bradbury from the golf and rec world were very excited to take a look at those and explore the possibilities of those. They will give us their plans, and we will put that all in a packet that will be rolled out to the board as a plan for the use of that in June. Ed Groman has been working with Beth, and they've been talking about the future needs of our property owners that want to downsize from their property and go to townhomes or condos or something of that nature. They've been working on that. And Ed is also kind of our liaison between the Long Range Planning Committee and the work that myself, Mitzi, and Beth are doing on preparing for this plan that the board wants to see. Keeping in mind that the board wants return on the $5.3 million purchase of the CCI land, we are working rapidly to get something put together to be put in the next year's budget.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the Long Range Planning Advisory Committee survey results. Sue?
Yeah, Ed and Phil will be speaking to that. Long Range Plan has been spending, I don't even know if there's enough hours in the year to explain how much time this committee has spent putting this together for you. So it is only right that they do this presentation.
Okay, thank you, Sue. Ed Grolleman, Chairman of Long Range Planning. Phil Brenner, who headed up the survey portion of this. We had a subcommittee working on that. And we put about 700 hours in over the last year doing the survey, working with the departments, HOA and everything to get questions assembled, and then analyzing the data, getting it all published out there. So next slide, please. Oh, okay, so this is our long-range planning goals that was approved by the board today. The long-range planning, we'll be working on updating the strategic plan we did in 2018. That was the original plan. That 3 years we'd relook at it. We're going to revise a lot of numbers based on housing growth and the survey findings that we have today. We'll also the land map use will also feed into that also. So last year we started assisting the PO departments how to make long-range plans. We worked with them, demonstrated what is needed to be done. We'll be continuing that process this year and hoping to get hard numbers for the budget for 10 years in the plan. POA plan, master plan use, as Winston just said, we are working with them to use the survey and other inputs from other departments on what's the best use of the properties that we have here long-term. Okay. And we're going to pursue the findings. You're going to see lots of people, lots of places to survey. In the next couple of days, the survey will be out there on Tellico Life. The full survey, all 300 pages of comments that you guys put out there are there. There's nothing being held back. So You know, if you really want to get a feel for what the village is, read those comments and the data. If you have any questions through Telco Life, you can ask us questions, and we'll respond to those questions on that. Okay? Anybody got any questions so far, board? Okay. And so survey, we had 2,335 responses. That's 46% of the completed homes. It's significantly higher than we had in 2018. Based on SurveyMonkey's percentage of successful, we have a plus or minus 2% margin of error, which means the same people took the same survey again, but yet that'd be about a 2% margin of error. There's a 99% confidence level in the data by the numbers that we've got based on SurveyMonkey's data. So we feel pretty good that the results we have are representative of the community. Next slide, please. So, executive summary, no surprise, the village is comprised of seniors, 82% 60 to 69 years old. The village has shifted based on the people that have taken the survey from 38% to 52% that have been here 5 years or less. And I think that's not a surprise if you really look at all the building and the house sales that we've seen in the last few years. Okay? Satisfaction with growth has declined since 2018. Was 67% in 2018, now 53%. We're going to analyze those numbers a little more to see if that's existing residents or new residents that are dissatisfied with that. So we'll have some more stuff on that in the future. And with the dissatisfaction numbers are up based on those numbers. And 77% of the people that took the survey were concerned about traffic. Okay. Next slide, please. Sentiment has shifted towards monthly assessments to keep them to a minimum from 2018. The percentage changed from 57 to 79%. Very, very strong interest in more walking and hiking and trail and park space. Okay. Finance and aesthetics are top two concerns. People are worried that the Telco Village is going to stay affordable and as nice as it is today. And over 90% of respondents are satisfied and would still choose Telco Village. That says we're doing something well. That's the first time we've had that question in, so we can't compare it to 2018 results, but in future surveys, that'll definitely be there. Any questions on that side? Okay. So what changed from 2018? Villagers told us, slow the growth. They're concerned about it. Too much traffic. Improve the restaurants. And are concerned over fees. These are the high-level topics that we got from mostly the comments, which we ran an AI program that demonstrated the key words out of those 300 pages of comments that we've got, and these were the common concerns over there. Villagers value natural beauty, lakefront, wooded areas, walking and hiking trails again, park space. I think overall, villagers like the village being green. So, any questions on that so far? Okay. Next slide. So, the next steps, we are presenting to the board today, and we're going to be presenting to the advisory committees. This is a small slice of what you have. The overall report is 400 pages, and we have 80 slides. So those slides are going to be available. All that will be available up on Telco Life. But we'll have specific slides we'll use for specific advisory committees like golf and recreation, so they will not, you have to sit through the whole thing. So we're going to present the HOA general meeting, date to be determined. As of yesterday, it was the first Telegram article out there on it. We're going to have continued articles on Telegram, publication, Telco Life, and based on more analysis, we might have some possible focus groups on some key issues. Any questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
So your work with the survey and everything like that, and as Winston just mentioned, you're also the liaison for LRPAC to the land plan.
Yeah.
How do you envision the information that you folks have gleaned in the survey being used as we try to look at the good uses of the land?
We've got some real good details from on some of the recreation questions of what people want, and same on the golf questions on what people want. So we would share that with the land use and help plan that out in the future and what should be what are the critical needs, what are the long-term wants. So we'll share that information as part of the plan.
Okay, and we're going to do that expeditiously because I think things are moving along, right?
Yes, we're going to be working on that. As this, earlier on, we moved up our dates to work with on the land plan use and stuff, and on the long-range plan. So they'll be done by second and third quarter this year, as the previous slide says. And then we're going to, as of the next long-range planning meeting, we're going to break out this long-range planning into different subcommittees: land plan use, long-range plan, and working on the plans with the different departments. So there'll be 2 or 3 people dedicated in those areas, and they'll report back to the overall committee.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Good? Okay. So just a little bit about the sources. 80 slides, charts, slides, and the big report has, the methodology, data analysis. So if you really want to know, get down to the nitty-gritty on every comment, that page report is going to be out there for you to do it. And every comment, that positive and negative, that was put into the survey is out there. So, okay. Total transparency here. Okay. Any other questions?
So how many hours do you think was put into this effort?
We've calculated around 700 hours the whole team put in there. We were meeting once or twice a week, and then when they're doing the data analysis, that was almost about 200-hour process right there. Then putting together the slides and the report was probably another 100 to 150 hours. So we all worked very diligent on this, and the team, I had a crack team, which I have to applaud their hard work and effort on this. So,
Yep.
thanks.
Thank you very much for everything that you guys have done.
Thank you. I think that's the last slide. Yep. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Ed, and
Thank you.
want to echo that. Very, very good job. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, to the operations report. Winston?
Thank you, Mr. President. Through January, finances are very non-interesting. 269 net income, positive net income versus a 378 negative budget. Total variance of about $650,000, mainly due to timing, salaries and benefits and personnel costs and maintenance made up the bulk of that variance. Falls in line with last year's net income of $288,000 positive. Total cash is 11.7 million, 3.5 million in op cash. Our 12/21 cash a month ago was 11.8, so very little change in total cash position. In the HR world, 2022 is taking off right where 21 left us. Just about every department in the company needs personnel. Golf maintenance, sewer departments, ACC code, streets departments, maintenance departments, accounting personnel, on the management side, HR manager, CFO, and CEO. And you guys really need to get cracking on the CEO part. Faster the better.
Told you.
IT has had a very busy month. The Public Works office building came in, has been assembled, and they're running the cabling and all the infrastructure that has taken place for the IT network. The IBM server has had a new backup carousel put in to help with data backup and data integrity. Broadway Sound was in to install sound equipment at Yacht Club and at the Kahiti Clubhouse. And I want to give a shout out to Kevin Alfont, our IT manager, who probably spent no less than 15 hours on the phone with AT&T to try to reestablish our 1-800 marketing number. The reason we dove in so hard on that is Beth probably has $25,000 worth of marketing material printed up with that number, so we couldn't just change it and hope everything would work out. And thanks to his hard work, he got it. He finally got a hold of the right people that could make it happen. ACC and codes, year to date, 2022 is going to be as fast and furious as 2021. 38 homes have been permitted so far, and in tomorrow's meeting is another 21 homes. So for those that do not like growth, I'm sorry. In 21 at this time, we had 38 homes permitted. So it appears that 22 is on the same trajectory as 2021.
Poke him.
I'm poking you.
I got a question. So, and I heard what you said, but there are people that are going to watch this video and they're not going to understand where you came from. We have how many POA lots? Approximately.
6,800.
All right, and then how many do the POA own?
283.
283. So there's, and then how many are owned by somebody else?
Private owner.
1,500 lots, 200 and something lots are owned by us, 6,800 lots. So there's 1,500 minus 200 and something lots, 1,300 lots that are owned by
Non-residents.
Us non-residents, right? I just want to make clear that everybody understands you can't go to that non-resident and say, you bought that lot 5 years ago and this POA board's signing a rule that you can't build a house here anymore. We can't stop that growth. The only growth that we can stop is to hang on to our lots and pay taxes on them and not generate revenue, right?
Certainly.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify. Nobody understands that there is.
From a financial standpoint, I don't recommend that, but for those, for
Yeah,
those
I
that,
know. I think they got that part.
for
But
those that are against growth, go out and buy all of Beth's lots up. That way you'll take those off the market.
absolutely, and they'll be gone, and we don't have to build on them. But we can't stop a property owner from building a house, can we?
No, sir. No legal right to do that. Currently, we have 323 homes under construction. Very, very, very busy time, and good timing on ACC's departments adding personnel to inspect these as they get constructed, make sure they abide by our rules. In the Public Works Department, bad weather generally causes a lot of headache and problems for many different reasons. Snow removal, we had a little, a call for that. I'm going to ask Clayton Taylor at some point in time in the near future to kind of give some revisions and updates to the board on things that he's changed in the operation. I think that have needed change and have improved the overall operation. Leaf collection is still going on in the village. The board approved a new leaf vac in past recent meetings. One of the instances of this new leaf vac that I want to point out to the board, we didn't go back with the same kind of equipment we had, which was very worn out. We went back to a piece of equipment that had larger capacities. So now, instead of making 5 trips a day to dump leaves, they have the ability to collect a day's worth of leaves and do a dump at one time. This cuts back on time on the road. This cuts back on the need for personnel tied up in leaves. They are now assigned to personnel, or assigned places they could be of more benefit. And also, by this savings that goes on, that will equate to about a $32,000 savings every leaf season, or 4 months. So it's things like that Public Works is looking at, kind of continuous improvement, better equipment. As they say, a better mousetrap makes it go a little better. Clayton is thinking that leaf pickup will be over by the end of Friday. They are up and running in their new sign shop. This new sign shop will save us roughly $10,000 a year. Not only is savings just outright, it'll also provide us better quality signs. We had issues with sign quality in the past, and we will have much faster replacement time with damaged signs and needed signs because now we simply make them in-house and we don't have to wait and be at the mercy of some other manufacturer. In the Public Works area, as I mentioned earlier, the Public Works office building, the one that was burned last year, is in place. The Public Works crew in-house is putting in the wiring, electrical, water, sewer. As I mentioned earlier, IT is getting it wired for all the technology infrastructure. Expect to be in that building by the end of the month. Utilities, pretty typical month, installed at 30 tanks, new water meters installed 28. We had all, and throughout the whole campus, 24 water system leaks, or sewer leaks, and we had 12 water system leaks. Generally, freezing and thawing conditions are hard on our pipes, and it spikes a little bit during this time frame. And working in mud during freezing times is always a lot more fun than in the summertime. Water meter change-out program, the Public Works team is looking at using a smart earth technology meter systems. They are fine-tuning how the installation of that's going to go, but this will shorten the time needed and the manpower needed to read these meters. And so once these are in place, it will further increase the efficiency of labor. I believe the plan, unless things change, is working on a timeline and do Kahiti first and see how that goes, and then move to other neighborhoods. Any questions on any of those topics before I move on? Yes, Steve.
I got like 3 updates I want to know about: water study, sewer study, and the Welcome Center entrance, when that's planned to be fixed.
Okay, I tell you what, at the end, let me get Clayton to address those. Hold those, please. In marketing, another very good month. Discovery requests 61. Last year at this time, 39. 2020, we had 60. Now, keep in mind, COVID did not kick in until March of 2020. So you're going to see in 21 the numbers dive down, and now it looks like we're on the rebound, and we are in line with where we left off in 2020. Completed discovery tours, 14, last year 14, in 2020, 17. Welcome Center traffic, that building continues to be extremely busy, 600 approximately in 22, 500 in 21, and 634 in 2020. Marketing specific traffic was 162 for 22, 314 for 21, and 306 in 20. Leads from marketing efforts, these would be phone leads, internet leads, magazine leads, etc. 350 for January of this year, 319 in 21, and 2020, once again, a high number of 708. And POA lots closed, which is always the favorite of my stats, is 36 for the month of January, 19 last year, and 13 in 2020. So she's accelerating the sale of POA lots, which is nothing but good for our financial picture. Golf operations is typically slow in the winter months because of the inclement weather and short days, short light. But Chris and his team are using this time to focus on training and improvements of processes and learn about new horticulture trends and practices. The entire golf team has attended the Tennessee Turfgrass Conference and Show, which was in Middle Tennessee. And Chris Sykes is now the new president of the Tennessee Turfgrass Association. So congratulations, Chris. The word's getting out that people now know about you what I have known about you for years. Very talented when it comes to horticulture. Very well respected. Also, other team members have attended the PGA Show and the Golf Industry Show, and continue to look for ways to improve our golf operation, the way we manage our operation, and bring new amenities and new focuses to our golf world to just enhance the overall experience. Not to be outdone by golf, the rec world's also been very busy. Household memberships against the normal trend have increased versus the individual memberships have come down a little bit from versus what we've seen in the last few months. The usage reports for our fitness classes have increased. New classes were introduced utilizing the Chota Gymnasium. Some of the new classes are TRX boxing, sunrise yoga, band together using resistance bands. Classes are very popular in the rec world. Simon, kudos for bringing this to light and having that expanded. Usage of the indoor pool at the wellness center has increased. We're monitoring the possible enhancements to the schedule in that facility. Use of the exercise room, pickleball and tennis are consistent with previous years. No noticeable difference in 2021 to 22. Those being an outdoor of nature, it's less affected by the COVID. The indoor cycle class that is converted a racquetball court. The cycles are at the vendor in North Carolina. They're being assembled. The next step is to ship them out to us, and Simon will begin holding classes on those. The floor's been installed, acoustic tiles have been put in the room, and it's just a matter of getting the equipment in and getting the classes started.
There's an update.
Let her rip, Steve.
Those cycles are
Yes, sir.
sitting in the hallway at Chota right now.
Well, I didn't get that from Update, thank you. So we're that much closer.
FedEx delivery today.
This is hot, this is breaking news.
Is this a class you're going to attend with your knee
I
rehabilitation?
don't think so.
Okay, moving right along. Last area is food service. Food service remains slow during the winter months. As you've seen when you came up here today, the kitchen for the yacht club has been completely gutted and is out in the bar and entrance area. That project is ongoing. Hopefully everything is going to be on schedule. Product for food service continues to be a problem. Changing prices, inconsistent delivery and supply seems to be a major problem. The culinary teams, the manpower themselves is also a problem. As I've said repeatedly to the board, we have a very difficult time with our personnel and AWE and food service and the rest of the world. They all enjoy that same pleasure. For some reason, when the COVID hit, everybody that wanted to work went away somewhere. New menus and pricing have been in place for weeks. Very little comment on feedback on that. Maybe that's due to, a lower than normal or the amount of use subsiding in the cold winter months. And AWE continues to explore new ways to improve their operation and change their menus and provide the needed food services that the property owners and residents enjoy and want. Okay, Steve, you had some questions relating to sewer study.
Yeah, the status of the water study, sewer study, and the Welcome Center entrance. When's that going to be fixed?
The water study report is completed. We, as in Public Works and PSAC, have reviewed those. We have a plan put together of how to move forward. We have been communicating with the board president of how he wants us to present that and when. So that is ready. So we do have that plan. So you should be hearing that soon. On the sewer study is complete. We, as in Public Works and PSAC, have reviewed that. We've come up with a game plan on that. That can be presented when we present the water study. And for the Welcome Center, we have estimates on that. We've been working with the insurance on that, but Beth is considering doing some changes to that entrance. So as soon as she says this is what she wants to do, then we will move forward with that.
You want to tell everybody what happened at the Welcome Center, just so they know why we need to?
Yes, there was a lady, bless her heart. She pulled up, and apparently she thought she was on the brake and got on the gas and jumped the curb and hit the entrance. I hate that for her. Yeah, she's not hurt. It hurt the building. I hate it for anyone, but we'll get it fixed and move forward. But I hate though those accidents happen, but they do. But as long as no one's hurt, then we can move forward.
So are there any surprises coming out of your water study and sewer study that we haven't seen here at the board level compared to what's in the budget? I take it from that reaction,
Yes.
you're going to request significantly more cash than we got in the budget.
We have, yes, but we have a game plan of working it in phases. So
We have an update scheduled. I forget off the top of my head when it is.
23rd.
Yes,
23rd. Thank you.
The 23rd, yes.
1 o'clock.
You're on it, Steve.
I am?
Yes, you are.
I'll have to look at my schedule.
So more to come to you the 23rd, Steve. So,
23rd, all right.
Rick looks puzzled too.
So is this going to be a special meeting?
It's because it's hot off the presses and you don't have your electronic communication in front of you.
So I've been notified.
Yeah, actually, I do.
Oh, you do?
Well, okay, well, we'll work that out.
Yes, send it to me as well.
Okay. Marketing, year-end report. Beth.
Oh, you have a problem.
Range balls.
Well, thank you everyone for staying and not leaving. I have a lot of people with me today. I have Fred and Joe Bogardus, who are part of the marketing committee. And then over here I have Lisa McCrae, who is our communications manager, and new to our team, Lindsay Macon, who is our marketing manager. Wave, Lindsay. She'll be in the gram soon. No, it might help if I turn it on. All right. We're here to discuss year-end marketing results. I'll try not to talk too fast. We're going to cover 2021 performance, 2022 outlook, objectives, and then the value of marketing. Our overall objectives were to sustain 2020 bottom line performance, which were the strongest in Tellico Village history for each of the following areas: MLS sales, program sales, property values, month on market, and POA lot sales. Our objective for MLS sales was 533. We came in at 624, which was up 17%. Home sales represented 323 of those, and lot sales 301. Our objective for program sales, these are sales that we can directly trace back to the marketing. We go through quite a process to verify this. Our goal was 392. We came in just screeching in at 393. So we were happy with that. And home sales represented 219. Lot sales was 174 of that, which was about 58% of MLS sales. Objective for property values, our goal was for an average of $162.80 per square foot. Actual performance came in at $208.96. That's up 28% versus 20 and 72% versus 2013, which was when the marketing program started. The price on average size home is about $543,000, which is an increase of $119,000 during just last year.
So what are you defining these days as the average sized home?
It's about, we use 2,200 square feet?
No, just give me the number.
Yeah.
Yeah. 25.99. Okay.
$25.99. So to give you a graph of the increase in property values, so you see 2007, we started the marketing program, 2013, and then how we've increased year over year. Months on market is another tool we use to see how the program's doing. Our objective was 1.9 months on market. Actual performance came in an average of 16 days. That is 4 times faster than 2020 performance. Residential inventory lows continue to exceed. We only have 15 homes on the market at the end of last year versus 18 the year before. Pending sales at the end of 2021 continue to be strong, although a little bit less than a year ago. Had 45 homes pending at the end of 21 versus 61 in 2020. And during 2021, homes sold almost immediately after hitting the market. Another graph to show you time on market from when we started to where we are today.
So Beth, based on that, we're not really seeing a slowdown yet in home sales.
Right, yeah. POA lot sales, our objectives was 153. Our actual performance was 303 sold last year. That's up 98% versus 2020 and up about 38 times before we started the actual builder program in 2015. The POA lot sold in 2021 will generate about $559,000 in assessment revenue, just in 2022 alone. Another graph to show you in 2013 what POA lot sales were. Started the marketing or the builder program in 2015, and you can see how it's increased year over year. Other key performance metrics is residential building permits. We saw 374 permits, which is up 80%. Total residential permits currently would come in at the end of December. We have 5,074. We're at 74.1% at build out of when you consider about 6,850 total lots in the village. And that leaves 1,775 remaining unpermitted lots. And like Pat said, we own around 280 of those.
So Beth, back at that 6850 number, that's the total number of plotted lots,
That
correct?
are, yes, that are platted currently. That does not include vacant land.
Does that include the CCI purchase?
No. Only the lots in that purchase that were already platted.
Which was like, what, 230 or something?
No, it was only maybe 10.
Okay.
Would you say that a certain number of that 6850 are really not buildable?
I think I've always said, just based on POA lots, lots that we own, that we probably have about 20 out of ours that would be very difficult to build on. I wouldn't say they're unbuildable because there's stilts and maybe there's elevators for cars, I don't know. They would be very, very difficult to build on.
Yeah,
so I would say if you looked at the 1,700, maybe 50 or 60. There's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, I've been shocked with some of the lots I've seen built.
Concur. I concur. Like I said, our growth rate comes in at 6%, and that's based on the 282 ACC completions during last year. And a chart to represent where we were in 13 and where we've moved, and the growth rate per year.
Like the people who live on lots next door to them or behind them?
Yeah, is Jessica here?
Of that 1,400 extra, actually privately owned lots, how many are owned by someone?
I can get you that number. I don't know. Jessica would know that more. It's not as many as you think, but there are property owners that own multiple lots.
Thank you.
All right, property owner ROI. Since the inception of the marketing program, home equity has increased 72%, or just over $228,000. This 8-year period translates to a realized property owner ROI of $73.2 million and an unrealized property owner ROI of $1.1 billion with a B. Marketing revenue, all-in net marketing revenue comes in at $2.3 million. If you take total revenue is $2.9 million, and marketing costs come in just over $638,000. So the net return on your marketing investment is 270% of what you put in. And then you can see the breakdown that I always provide you: contractor, realtor revenue, advertising revenue. So we brought in $126,000 in revenue. Then you have the lot sales revenue plus assessment revenue. And then we take a percentage of ACC water fees and sewer fees based on the marketing direct new builds. And then on the cost side, we take all direct expenses, salaries, benefits, electric, all to do with the Welcome Center. And we also take a part of Public Works oversight fee. So that brings in the $638 cost and then the revenue, which is $2.3 million, like I said. Some conclusions. During 2021, marketing successfully maximized a very short-term window of opportunity. We had a very extraordinarily strong real estate market driven by a desire for people to relocate due to COVID. Historically low mortgage rates. Our opportunity was very much optimized by careful management of our program. We updated and renovated the marketing website. We made major refinements to page digital programs. Part of that was due to no trade show travel last year. We implemented a national direct public relations program that's been very successful, and we've always did mid-course corrections as needed to make sure performance is going the way we need it to go. It was critically important that Tellico Village take a maximum advantage of the opportunity given the challenges that are faced in the economy and in the market as we enter into 2022. And here are some outlooks. We provided you, the board, with a full packet on some real estate and economic outlooks. This is just high level. So obviously 2022 is going to be tempered by interest rates and mortgage rate concerns. Inflation rate rose to 7.5 in January, which is a 40-year high. PPI rose 9.7, which is the highest in 12-year history. Mortgage rates increased 51 base points in January. The Fed will be hiking interest rates in March. It's estimated to be somewhere between 3 to 7. We're not really sure yet. Fannie Mae historical data is 100% base points for mortgage rates. 4% of the real estate market declined as early as April. So we most definitely see some slowdowns. There's existing inventory is critically short, as I said. Existing homes that are on the market are selling almost immediately. The HPS study showed that 40% of people think it's a bad time to buy versus a good time. This negative consumer sentiment is viewed also by Fannie Mae and indicates that we will see a little softening as we move into the year. This notwithstanding, we believe that 2022 is still going to be a good year, although probably not as strong as the second half of 2020 and all of 2021 performance. Demand for housing remains strong. The Omicron variant seems to have peaked. And it remains to be unseen how the Fed's interest rate hike is going to impact us as we move into the year. The major conflict with Russia also could majorly change the housing market. And as we've done in the past, we will keep you, the board, updated on any economical things that we see coming our way. Our objectives for 2022, the following objectives are unchanged, presented what you saw in our 2022 budget process, except for the ones that were changed within that process. For instance, our POA lot sales estimate was raised to 160, and then our net turn on investment was raised to 1.5 million, and that was based on our discussions during the budget process.
Beth, I have a quick question, just for the edification of everybody. So your objective is 160 POA-owned lots.
Yes.
How many POA-owned lots are there?
There is 287 currently.
Thank you.
All right.
Is there any tax sale this year? Will we get more lots this year?
There should be if they do one.
Okay.
But we don't know yet.
And we should go through the one-year process with, how many were there last year?
34?
Yeah, so there's another
34.
30 that are going to be saleable that, are not saleable now.
For MLS sales, our minimum of 500 total MLS sales, that's an up 5%. Program sales, 335, which is up 14%. Program sales as a percent of MLS sales is up 67%, and POA lot sales a minimum of 160. Property values at a minimum maintain exceptional 2021 residential property value performance, which is at 208 per square, and an all-in investment on an all-in basis of at least 1.5 million after all marketing costs and expenses. Now we want to get into the value of marketing. Marketing presentations to the board are by necessarily very detailed. However, we have a danger that the casual observer may not understand the value of marketing by listening to me ramble lots and lots of numbers. So what we've decided to do is an attempt to make it a little bit more memorable for you, hence my golf balls. So marketing's 2021 marketing budget totaled $405,000 during 2021, and that has been unchanged since 2017. I've not asked for any more money. This total 2021 budget equals $3.62 per month from each assessment paying lot. For perspective, this also represents 60% of a cost of a bucket of range balls at Toqua or Kahiti, 56% of a glass of house wine here at the Yacht Club, 40% of one chicken salad wrap at Tenasseee. Let's review this investment and the return to property owners and explore some ways that this return could be invested. So this is the value to a homeowner. Fundamentally, we have averaged a home equity increase of $119,000 last year. You, for this value, could book a 214-day around-the-world cruise for two. You can tour 6 continents in more than 40 countries. Or you can go on the Oceania small cruise ship, leaving December 28th of this year. You could also buy a luxury car, a Porsche, a Lexus, a BMW, roll the dice, pick one. A new Tellico Village amenity in your name. Simon would love to sell you the Pickleplex for $100,000, and your name could be there for 15 years. Moreover, marketing contributed for the POA a net revenue of over $2.3 million. That is sufficient to cover all of the capital expenditures in 2021, which includes some of the Kahiti Tenasseee bunker renovations, Welcome Center roof repair, wave attenuator, water meters, and boat dock expansion. In net, the value of the Tellico Village marketing during 2021 can be summarized as follows. Tellico Village property owners have an increased equity of almost $120,000, and the POA had a return incremental revenue of $2.3 million, and all of that for a property owner cost less than a bucket of range balls. Thank you. Now I'll take some questions.
Any questions from the board?
Just one caveat.
What?
You knew I had to say so. The $400,000 is what you pay on outside services for your
Yes.
marketing budget. So it excludes salaries and the staff and all that other stuff.
But the 638 does not.
I understand. but
Right.
this
Nor does that
comparison
take
is
in
just
the
for
revenue.
outside fees.
Right.
Okay.
Any other
others?
questions?
Any questions from the residents? Okay, use the mic, please, since we're on.
Of the 1,500 or so lots that are privately owned, how many are in arrears and really not buildable at the moment?
I think, Tyler, do we have 200-ish people in collections currently? Do you remember?
The report
120 are
shows
suspended.
122
Okay.
suspended.
Any other questions? All right, thanks,
Awesome.
Beth.
Thank you. Adam, I'll give you your balls back after the meeting.
Mr. White, Asian Carp.
Asian carp. Where's Carla Johnson? I saw her back there. She is. There's her hand. She normally gives this, and it sort of got passed on to me. But the latest and greatest, and I'm just going to cover the highlights here. Let me get my Asian carp up. Okay. Information regarding the updates to the invasive Asian carp is available for review on the TWRA, Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency website. You can get that through tn.gov website. Just follow the link. Their latest memo is dated January 10th, 2022, and I'll read the first paragraph of this. It says the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency has analyzed recently collected fisheries data from both Kentucky and Barkley reservoirs, which they told all of the population that they were going to be studying because of their new barrier. Kentucky and Barkley reservoirs have been invaded by Asian carp in significant numbers since 2015, and they're primarily coming from the Ohio River. There is the report goes on to discuss, the middle three paragraphs goes on to discuss increasing sports fishing populations, which I didn't necessarily want to bring up here. And if you want to go back and read about it, it is quite interesting to the fishermen because they talk about certain fish species are increasing while others are increasing, but not as fast as others are increasing. And then they blame it on the cyclical nature of the reproductive cycle of these particular fish. So if that interests you, it's there. The last paragraph I found most interesting in a couple of ways, and I'll cover both of those. Invasive carp populations appear to be declining due to commercial harvest and lack of natural reproduction in both reservoirs. Although invasive carp migrate from the Ohio River through the locks when commercial barges navigate lock chambers, the experimental barrier at the Barkley lock chamber has been shown promising effects, reducing the migration of invasive carp into Barkley Reservoir. So what they've been doing is they've been studying the number of carps that they can capture and tag and follow through the lock, back through the lock, and then they started this experimental barrier, and now they can track how many are coming back in and being reduced by this barrier. So they're saying that that's going down. The next part, last sentence says, if this positive effect continues, additional barriers throughout Tennessee and Cumberland rivers will be instrumental in reducing migration of Asian carp. So I interpret this last paragraph in two ways, and it's primarily because of the word if in the last sentence. The barrier at Barkley is showing promising effects reducing migration, and they've got the data to show that that's happening. And these barriers are very, very expensive. Then the if and then the implied then statement tells me that we in Tellico Village should remain vigilant and continue to communicate with our state and federal legislators, as Carla reported at the last meeting, getting kudos from our congressman of the area, specifically pointing out Tellico Village. If you go to our website, you will find those letters are still there. There's samples, there's addresses, and you can cut and paste those into your own format and adjust the words if you want. Let's see. One of the issues, though, was it is in the best interest of all those who enjoy the waters upstream of Watts Bar and Fort Loudon Dam to keep those cards and letters flowing. So to keep the interest up with all the COVID going on and the lack of employment and now all these other issues with, I almost said something, but I'm not, anyway, keep the cards and letters flowing to your representatives in the state, in the federal legislature, our congressmen, our senators, and follow that website. And let's take this word, if the number of carp continues to reduce, they will not forego installing those barriers to save a little money. Thanks.
All right, Pat, thank you. Any questions for Pat? Any from the residents? All right, thank you. Let's go to the finance update.
Mr. President, with Kevin's retirement, that leaves Mr. Biddle to take the brunt of the financial abuse. We warned him about Steve.
Steve, he's young. Take
talked to
it
Steve
easy
earlier.
on him.
I backed off. I only got 6 questions instead of 12.
I'll answer them all for you. All right. So just to start with the non-financials, you can see lots are up against budget. Golf rounds are down. And like Winston said earlier, the snow, I think there were 11 days of the golf course being closed, so it makes sense that the daily rounds are down by 500. And then the same thing with the individual memberships. Family was up, but the individuals were down, and we think that was mainly due to the COVID scare, people not getting out, so.
So I have a question concerning docks.
Mm-hmm.
We're currently, I know there's a wait list, but we're currently showing docks at 95%. So what's going on?
I think that's just a timing issue within the end of the month, whether it be a day or two off. If somebody comes off the wait list,
I'm not going to go into my normal Winston Blazer diatribe on docks, but if you go back and look at these every single month, it's never 100%, even though it's 100%.
There's some reconciliations to do, Rick. We've got some analysis to do, but
Okay.
other than the free docks that we give to our service providers.
And that's only 4 docks.
Yes.
It's 4 slips, yeah.
So
4
basically, that doesn't account for a 5%.
0.5, yeah, 4.5.
Part of the work to be done.
Okay,
Yeah.
I got it. And I have the same question on the RV lots. There's still a waiting list, right? Ditto. Okay, I got it.
As Jessica asked, give us a little time to clean that up.
And I will be easy. What I'll send you is, I'm going to go back to October, and I'm going to send you the NFI table.
okay.
Because there's pieces of information missing on here, such as how many annual memberships we sold for golf, et cetera. So I'll just send it to you so you know what the template is.
Okay.
And the other template I'll send you is in your FAC meeting. there used to be a report on suspended accounts, the roll forward and so forth. I'll send that to you too.
And I even had a note for you that the cash flow was not in the FAC, and I said,
Yeah,
I
that's
gotta get
very
that for
good.
Steve Schneider.
All right, but I will send it to you and save you today.
Okay.
He's been warned.
And then if you go here, here's just a breakdown of the budgeted revenue and expense versus the actual. The expense was down quite a bit due to capital being budgeted in January and not yet spent. And same thing, there was some maintenance that was budgeted for January and not necessarily spent yet. So we should see that in the upcoming months. Go here, kind of see the same thing. The dock question, we're getting that fixed. Same thing with RVs. Overall, revenue is down versus budget about $200,000. If you go to the next slide, you can see the same thing, what we talked about with the maintenance expense being down $300,000, and then salaries and benefits were down as well, making up most of the difference for the expense side of things. Any questions on those?
Yeah, just to highlight, once again, we are behind on maintenance. So Clayton, if you're still in the room, you know the repair you have to do on the Welcome Center? We just missed January, you got $285,000, you kind of got busy on it.
Yeah, I do have extra,
New design.
Any other questions on those?
New design.
Keep moving, Tyler.
Yeah, Tyler, it's hard to hit a moving target.
And then here's the golf rounds. We're down total member rounds of 340, and again, that was mainly due to the daily rounds being down because of the snow. We get 1 day of snow, we get 4 in East Tennessee.
But to the upside, February has been a little better than, a lot better than January and better than normal, so we'll recoup.
And then here's just some guest rounds we're up versus budget with guest rounds. And then here's just the total golf rounds report, down 263 versus budget, but that's mainly the daily, I think being down over 500 rounds versus budget. And then you'll see the rec memberships. We're ahead of budget in January on the household, but down in the individual, I think it was 50, roughly 50. So, again.
And if you look back at 2020, we're not totally recovered from COVID.
Before you go on, Chris, are you here?
Yes, sir.
I have a request now so that when we get to budget season, it won't seem like it's coming out of the blue. But as you know, I like to calculate the break-even number of rounds on the Twilight memberships.
We'll go track it.
No, well, last year it was average number of 18-hole rounds. What I'm gonna request now, so you get time to figure out how to track it, is I'd like a frequency distribution on all your memberships of Twilight, so we know how many of those memberships are over break even versus how many are less than break even, so we can actually look at the data. So when we look at pricing going into 2023, we got better data. And this way you can take a look at what the system is generating, so how you can capture that data now in February versus waiting to be asked in July.
Holy cow, so you get a knee injury, you can't play golf anymore, and you put him behind a calculator for 8 hours a day?
Exactly. Now you can cease and desist when I come back from surgery.
Current activities, I didn't have it on here, but the cash is at 3.5 and our reserves are at 8.2 million. So, and then of course, congratulations to Kevin Ellsworth on his retirement. Again, thank you, Kevin. AC, ACC started strong. Public Works building's finally here, and I think they're slowly moving in it. Weather was not friendly to the golf courses in January. I'm sure it wasn't easy for the maintenance guys. And then we're getting prepared for the audit. Field work's expected in March or April.
Now, we still have the conference call scheduled
March 10th?
2nd or something? Let's see, might be the 4th. Yeah, it'll be, I'll verify, but we'll have that in March, right?
Yes.
Winston, you want to address the refi on the medical center?
Yes, one action I advised FAC about was that I asked the bank to look at the medical building. In looking at Marty's slides at an HOA presentation, I noticed that the interest rate was higher than what we could get on that facility that was put in place 4, 5, 6 years ago. So the refi of that's going to bring it down from 4.7% or 4.5% to 3.75%. Save us about $15,000 a year, and that will be declining as the principal decreases, but it'll save us about $15,000 a year in interest. Cost us $1,250 in fees to get it switched over, but just a little added revenue to the coffers.
I missed it. Did you keep the term the same or extend it?
Term's same, everything's same, just simply reduce the interest rate that we're being applied against the principal.
Yep, nice.
Glad I could help.
Thanks, Marty, for that information.
And then we'll go into the funding request. The first one's the Kahiti GM Kubota. There's no action required by the board, but Winston had advised to just bring all in front of the board, so they've got it's a used Kubota. He got it in a estate sale, got a really good deal on it, so.
So did Warren pass away or something and we're buying this tractor?
That's a question for Jordan Clark.
Okay. I've just never seen one like it came from the estate of Warren Clark and it's a Kubota tractor. Must be.
I don't like to assume, so.
The golf industry is, this bunch I've got is pretty thrifty.
Well, I know especially Jordan, the amount of money he saved the POA from getting those contractors at Kahiti building houses to haul dirt to fill the bunkers before he started his project. That was phenomenal.
So was this a replacement?
Was this replacement, Chris? Yes, yes it was.
What was the disposition of the replaced vehicle?
Do we?
Well, there's a value judgment.
Is the intent to scrap it for scrap metal sales? It'll be eliminated from the asset rolls and then sold as metal.
All right, very good.
The next is a four-wheel drive man lift machine coming from operating cash. It was recommended by PSAC and FAC. The one bid was from Aerial Titans for $65,400, and the budget was $65,000. It's coming from operating cash.
So is there any cost justification on this, any return on investment?
Yes, and Clayton may have a better explanation for that, but he said it would cut out some vendor activity.
They covered that in FAC, and we didn't have time to prepare a schedule for it, but basically, we use this instead of contracting to have light and the light poles changed. We'll use this to fix a lot of things where we brought a contractor in. Clayton estimates that this will save us about $20,000 a year. So the budgeted life of this piece of equipment is going to be 10 years. So we're going to spend $65,400. We're going to be able to do it on our time schedule, and it's going to have a very positive ROI. We just didn't have that schedule built for this particular thing, but You'll notice there was 3 bids that sent out. We requested 3 different bids. Bidder 2, bidder 3 submitted no bids. One of them's reasoning was it takes 18 months to get a piece of equipment in, and so they just felt like it'd be a waste to submit a bid. We'd reject it on that delivery time frame. And then the other one did have one that came in for another customer. The customer backed out of the deal. They offered it to us, but we had already committed to this one. And this is above my capital limit, so this needs a board approval.
So can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Rick, seconded by Bob, to approve the purchase of a four-wheel drive man lift for $65,400. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I got a couple. I really don't like just going with one bid, so I understand the reasoning why you didn't get two other bids. We ought to be beating the bushes to see if we can compare the price. And then going forward, we ought to have it documented what your justification is. You said we're going to get $20,000 savings. We have nothing except the verbal commitment today.
That was raised by the FAC on Friday.
Yeah,
So-
we certainly agree with that. We understand and agree with that completely, Steve.
Yeah, if you're going to pitch cost savings, you've got to tell us what the cost savings is.
So going forward, this needs to be cleaned up and more financially sound.
No problem.
I agree. Any other questions, comments on this one? All in favor? Opposed? John, you in favor or opposed? Sorry. I saw it up when I said opposed though too, so 7-0. Move on.
I'm in favor.
All right, thanks. Go ahead.
All right, the
For
next
those
is,
of you who don't know, our absent board member is are you in Mexico or Hawaii now?
Cabo.
Puerto Vallarta.
Yeah, there you go.
He'll be back next month.
And what's the temperature there?
We don't want to.
About 83 today.
80.
Yes, so here our board member spends all of this money to get there and enjoy the day, and what's he doing? Sitting on a deck at a board meeting. That's worse than what I'm doing.
We digress. Let's keep going.
all right, the next is a PWC lift expansion. It's 10 lifts in Kahiti and then 5 in Kahiti and 5 in Tanasi Basin. Budget amount was $25,000, and then requested is $27,472, coming from the amenity reserve. MAC and FAC both recommend. And there's only one bid there as well, but that's a vendor we've used in the past with the
Do you want to take both
lifts.
of those? You want to do both of these?
No, they can't.
Why?
There's a problem with the second.
Huh?
There's a problem with the second.
So let's do this one first. Do I have a motion for this one?
So moved.
Rick moved, Bob second, to approve the purchase of 10 PWC lifts for $27,472. Any
So,
discussion?
I have a question that I want to ask. And I asked this same question in the FAC meeting on Friday. In both of these, this one and the next one, we budgeted $25,000, and in both cases, they came in above that. And I was told in the FAC meeting it was because the installation was not included in the budget number. Is that true?
No, and I don't recall hearing that was the explanation. The explanation, when I reached out to the providers of these lifts, it was plastic prices had increased that much since we got the estimate in October, or in August.
So you're basically saying it's the inflation we're living under?
Yes, sir.
No, inflation is part of it, but if you recall, we ordered the wave attenuator for the yacht club, and we ordered it long before they said they could put it. In fact, I think we had it on property 6-8 months.
Yes, sir.
Sitting over stored.
So we get hedged
Because we hedged the plastic prices.
Right.
Right, and it's the same thing here. We didn't hedge this one.
Yeah.
So we end up paying more.
Was this single source?
It is to where it's hydro hoist, to where they will hook up with our other PWC lifts. They're the only ones, every provider, every people that build those have a different installation and connection point. So we go with hydro hoist so they will all connect and function the way they should.
Going forward, for me, it'd be nice to see, what are you charging for rental for one
Okay.
of these slips?
Sure.
Times 10, gives you annual revenue, so I'm gonna spend 27 grand.
Yeah.
How much cash am I getting in every, and then how long you plan for them to last?
We can do that, sir.
They last until we replace them.
Right.
And then what happened from the Marine Advisory Committee used to be, in the old days, they put them in the back of a truck and took them to the dump. And then one of the Marine Advisory Committee property owner volunteers says, why don't I put them on Craigslist? And he sold them for $500 a piece. And now I think last year he sold them for $800 a piece?
Yes, sir, and we already have some people lined up.
Yeah.
Goes into the calculation.
Yeah, didn't even clean them up.
So what life expectancy is there, Pat, do you know?
Until you break it.
Yeah, that's correct.
So maintenance basically forever, unless something happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I wouldn't say
Until
forever.
Pat
Forever's
drives his
for a long
Ski-Doo
time, but
recklessly onto one of the lifts.
yeah, until they become damaged.
So the ones you just got rid of, how long did we have those?
I would have to look back. They're 10 and 12 years old, some of those.
Okay.
Well, and if you'll recall, we talked about this last year. The reason we're replacing these is newer PWCs don't get onto the old lifts very easily.
Too big.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're starting, the old ones will start to damage PWCs trying to get on those.
Okay, thanks.
Steve, the revenue on them is 407 per slip.
407?
So it's a little.
That's $814 to the White family.
Per year, 40,000.
All right, all in favor of this purchase? Was that okay, 7-0. Let's move on to the next one.
Okay, and here's a PWC lift replacement. 10 PWC lifts on Q and R docks in Tenasseee Basin. Budget amount again is $25,000. The request is $28,562, coming from the amenity reserve. MAC and FAC both recommend, and again, it's the hydro hoist bid.
Okay, can I have a motion on this one? Pat, second? Bob? So the motion is to approve the purchase of 10 PWC lifts for $28,562. Any discussion?
Yeah, this is a technical issue. The funding needs to come out of the maintenance reserve. This is a replacement, not an addition new. That's why the verbiage has to change, Winston.
Okay.
Should not be coming out of the amenity reserve, which is for new assets. This is a replace.
So the amended motion is to take it out of the maintenance reserves.
Yep.
Right, okay. Any other comments? Take it to a vote. All in favor? Aye. 7-0.
All right, the next one, it doesn't require board action, but it's a walk-behind mower replacement. Coming from operating cash, the budget amount was $6,000. The request amount is $5,865. Again, just the existing mower is worn down and they needed to purchase a new one. They did get 2 bids from this. The third bid did not come back with an amount. They went with Athens Lawn and Garden for $5,865.
Next.
Okay.
And then on this last one, I'm sorry, the next one is the 5 truck replacements. Clayton may be able to talk about this a little more as well. The budget amount is $250,000. The request amount is $191,575, coming from operating cash, PSAC recommended, and the FAC recommended. And then the bids, there's a list of bids for each truck. There's 1 ACC truck, 1 sewer truck, 2 for building maintenance, and then 1 for public works. And he's got a list. I don't have it on hand, but he received 3 bids for each department's truck, and I believe he's going with Ford for each one because he's working with Jackie Jones.
These are all 2022s or 2021s?
They're factory orders.
Factory orders?
Yeah.
So we'll be waiting a long time.
I'd probably predict that. I just ordered a new car in December. They haven't even scheduled it for build.
My understanding, Clayton, you can help me out here, because I was covering Marty at the meeting, is that this is a very erratic process, as we've all heard about buying trucks particularly, and cars, but primarily trucks. And what we're faced with now is we ordered the truck, they say it might be in April, let's say. Next week, they might call and say, XYZ company ordered the exact same truck, and it's sitting on the lot and they don't want it anymore. So that's why these guys are coming to us ordering in bulk, so that we can go pick it up at the price that we want.
And Clayton, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that I was told Friday that, you know, these are your entire truck orders for the year.
It is, yes, sir.
And aren't these some of the trucks you've downsized from the larger to the smaller pickups?
What we did is we reevaluated all the trucks that we have in ACC, Public Works, Building Maintenance, and we moved some trucks around to get smaller trucks, you know, in an appropriate place. There, if you'll notice on that bid packet, there is a Ranger for ACC. They don't need a big truck. So we're moving a lot of trucks around to where we're not buying big trucks for everywhere. In this process, as Pat was saying, if this is approved, Jackie Jones will order these trucks. But if one comes in, we can get that truck that someone had backed out on, and they'll just put the one that we ordered on the lot. They also assured me that they would work, and I reached out to Lenore City Ford also, and they assured me that they will work with Lenore City Ford. If Lenore City Ford has one come in, we'll do the same thing. So we have 2 outlets there, and when I discussed this process with them, I explained to them how we were going online and building these trucks, you know, building the minimum. And both dealerships assured me that they felt they can sell us these trucks below the dealer, you know, the manufacturer price to where we are ordering those trucks. So we felt like this would be a good process to where you all would know what's coming.
So are you saying then that the actual amount we spend could be lower than the 191.5?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I thought. All right, any other discussion? All in favor?
Are you going to put that in your motion, Steve?
All right. What was that?
What I said was it's not to exceed, but that's the requested amount.
Right. Right.
When you request cash, I assume that's not to exceed.
Yeah, the capital report would also show that.
Right.
Yeah. So it's approved.
Last one, Tyler.
Last one is the Chota water tank, and it was a carryover from 2021. Source of funds, Water and Sewer Reserve, PSAC and FAC both recommended, and it was with CROM for $61,590.
Can I have a motion on this?
I'll move it, then I have a question.
A second.
Rick and Pat seconded. Any discussion?
Yes. Winston, you need to talk, or somebody needs to talk to the entire cost of the tank. Because it's not just the $61,000, it's what we've already spent, it's what we will spend after this.
Yeah. The confusion that we had on this is when we looked it up in the budget, we couldn't find where it should have been put in the budget for this carryover funds. I think the total cost was projected at what, Clayton, 250? A total cost of repair to the water tank?
What we had budgeted was $255.
255, and we've, on the first phase of it, came in under budget. and we knew this was going to carry over. This came from the internal work. Inside the work, they have found some hollows inside the concrete walls that need to be repaired. The only thing that Tyler and I couldn't answer in the FAC meeting when they reviewed this was, we know that we requested this money in the carryover for '22, but we were unable to find it where it should have been put. And so we're still researching, where the carryover money got put in the '22 budget. Nonetheless, we're going to come in at what price total? 196?
Yeah, probably 220, somewhere around in there.
Yeah. 221 sticks out in my head.
So it's 220 or thereabouts versus what the original budget was of 255?
Yes, it will be below the 255.
And that's all in, including this repair?
This is the last step.
Cool.
Okay, any other comments, questions?
When did you find out about this?
We found out probably December about this part.
So you've been working with the contractor for the last 6 weeks, trying to figure out what the cost is going to be in scope?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
This coincided with the internal tank coating and so forth that took place.
And you also did ultrasound or whatever kind of testing? Thickness testing.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's how they discovered the hollow.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
7-0.
Before we go on, since Winston brought up the question about looking for the carryover funding in the budget, where it's at, I may have a bad memory, but I thought we had talked through the budget season that we had some money in the out years, I don't know if it was 2024, 2025, for a pavilion for the Pickleplex complex.
Yeah, I went back and looked at that, because you and I talked about it.
It's not in
I know, and now
the
what
copy that I have.
what
So
I've gotta
while
go-
you're searching, look for that as well.
Yeah, and you're gonna have to go back to 18, because somewhere back there, it got taken out of the long-range plan, which it shouldn't have. Right?
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what we said earlier. We got to review that whole 10-year
Yeah.
budget plan and be sure
Yeah.
it matches up with the long-range plan. and
Yeah.
Everything's in there.
So I will go back to all my paper files from last budget season, because I remember it being in there, but it's not in the final.
Right. I
So
look
if you
forward
find
to
it,
it. Because it was for 2025, was it not, Steve? Yeah.
And if you find it, I'll look.
Hey, Winston, so now you say, can you get me that by the board meeting in March?
What are you saying? Put him to work during his recuperative period?
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, Tyler?
I've got the 2022
That's called
capital
delegation
approved
upwards.
year-to-date.
All right, here we go. Let's move on.
So the last thing I got, this is just year-to-date approved, authorized. We've got $2.7 million to be requested left in the 2022 budget, and then the projects approved to date, about $1.5 million. So, and we're 56,000, 57,000 favorable on the budget.
Okay.
and just as a reminder, when we did the budget, we assumed what, 6.5% inflation?
And it's 7.5%.
7.5 for now.
Index you look at.
Was it 6.5? I thought it was 5.5.
No, Wall Street came out and said the last 30 days or something was 7.5%.
No, I meant the budget was built on.
Are there any other questions for me?
Hey, Tyler, you survived.
So I just,
Just remember, this is the easy one.
yeah,
Yeah, because Steve laid back.
That's a question now.
honeymoon's over.
He won't do that again.
So I was just asking Winston, you said 6.5, and for whatever reason, I thought the budget was built on 5.5% inflation. So it was 6.5?
Yeah, what you're thinking about is the CPI was 5.5, which would have allowed an increase in the POA assessment by 5.5.
Yeah, I do
We went
remember
with
that.
5.
I remember that. Okay.
No, but we went back and changed the inflation factor.
You're the numbers guy, so I trust you. All right, thanks, Tyler.
Thank you, guys.
I think we are done. So let's move to other. I'm getting there. Does anybody on the board have an other? Everybody's tired. Anybody from the residents? We have one. Yeah, you've been sitting a long time, I know. Just come up here and have a seat if it's easier for you.
Yeah, make sure his green light's on.
I just have a little something to read, ain't gonna take long. I use big font, so.
Could you please state your name? State your name first.
At home, but I found them. My name is Michael Shep. Been a member of the village, or lived in the village for, I think, 8 years now. I've sent the letter to the board, but I just want to read something for folks who might be listening. Like I said, it'll take a minute, 2 minutes. So if you will kindly listen to this. You may or not have been following the recent next door neighbor posts concerning the rule or policy currently in place that does not allow Public Works or any other POA entity to enter on private property, no matter what the circumstances may be. This stemmed from an incident where a tree that happened to be next to the lot next door to me, which is privately owned, and it's been neglected for years. There was a tree that was uprooted and is currently still resting on some smaller trees. And it appeared that should the wind blow the right way, when that tree's ready to come down, it looked like it was gonna strike my house. So I called Public Works. They came out and informed me that it's private property, they can't go on it, and that I should pay to have it cut down, if I so choose. I was further advised that there are hundreds of such properties, and the cost would be prohibitive to take all these trees down. I'm not asking to go out and cut hundreds of trees down. What I'm asking is for the POA to amend that section of the policy to allow Public Works or other POA department members to go on privately held lots that show an imminent hazard to an occupied dwelling. I don't believe there's hundreds of such cases. It's not right that we owners that live next to privately held lots that have been neglected for years and pose a danger to have to expend our own funds to have trees or limbs cut down, pay attorney fees, other fees, while they, the owners, are not held accountable in any way by the POA. I think it's time to change that. I currently ask three things. I ask that the board form a committee that I would be more than happy to sit on to go out and actually look at these privately held lots that pose a danger to occupied dwellings. So we have an accurate count of what is really out there. Secondly, I ask that the board to amend the current policy to add wording from a well-defined definition of what is imminent danger and when the POA can go on such property to take care of what they have to take care of. And lastly, I ask the board to become more proactive and assist homeowners who have situations, as mentioned above, and who have taken steps such as writing certified letters, sometimes trying to call these people, and everything's ignored by that owner. I'm not an attorney. I'm not wealthy by any means compared to some other folks in the village. But I think, the POA can assist homeowners who find themselves in that situation. My thought was a strongly worded letter from the POA to that homeowner outlining what will happen if they don't comply and take care of what the problem might be. I think hearing from POA might stir them a little more than hearing from Mike Shupp, some neighbor. They could care less. I appreciate all the members of the Public Works and the work that they do. I understand their hands are tied in this situation. I don't have anything against them, although as you read the posts, some people kind of went off. And I appreciate the work that you as the board do to make Telco run. I sincerely hope that you take these ideas seriously and bring some positive change that can help some residents out. It's a good place to live. And I think it's time that that part of the policy has to be looked at. So, thank you.
Thank you. So first of all, you went through the right process, because as you mentioned, the board does not go out to next door looking for agenda items. Although they find their way here anyway. But that's not an official communication of the POA. So what you did was the right thing. You contacted Public Works, they came out, they did the right thing based on what the rules are.
Right.
And then by you then taking it to the board, that is the right process. So I want to commend you on that process. Okay. From there, is that something we want to address now?
Happy to, if you want me to. Yeah, just briefly to address kind of the origin of the policy. The governing documents do provide the POA with certain limited rights to access private properties and perform certain limited maintenance. The POA, while it may have that right, doesn't have a duty to do that. The governing documents give it that right. It has never exercised that duty relative to trees on private property, and there are a couple reasons for that. One is the obvious expense, and secondarily, and probably more importantly, is the significant liability that comes with doing that. Because once, from a legal perspective, once a POA undertakes a duty, they essentially then have liability that comes with that duty if they don't perform it appropriately. So you've got potential liability for the POA if they don't cut the tree right. You've got potential liability for the POA if they cut one tree but don't cut the one right next to it, and then it falls down. And unfortunately, the POA is not equipped to know which of the hundreds and thousands of trees in this village are imminently in danger to fall. And it's a huge challenge. We certainly understand and appreciate the challenge with your situation. But over the years, the POA has maintained a very consistent policy that they can't get into that role of, one, determining which trees within private property can or should be cut down, and two, undertaking that obligation at a significant expense. I can only imagine that vacant lots that are not improved probably have countless trees that are in various stages of health and risk.
But I'm not asking for anybody to go and try to identify a tree and go, yep, this is going to fall, because we don't know. I'm talking about a tree that fell, and it is, potentially an imminent danger to the house, somebody walking underneath or with their dog, whatever. That to me is different than trying to identify a tree that may fall.
I understand, but the challenge is once you undertake that duty to get into trees, you then have bought that problem. And the next argument would be you took his tree down because it was in imminent danger. How come you missed this one? Or how come you cut this one and not that one? Or how come you're not cutting mine? And it's unfortunately a slippery slope that if the POA were to undertake that obligation, it could lead to exponential expense and liability.
So Kevin, can the POA, from a legal perspective, help by writing a letter under like POA letterhead?
And let's take a step back, because we discussed this morning. Everybody knows that we have lots that hit the Loudoun County lot sale. This may be one, this may not, but you described your vacant lot property owner. They are in significant arrears to us for assessment fees. So now with what you just asked, the likelihood of what you're asking, We go out, send a certified letter, big bad POA says you're going to, and so what are they gonna do? Well, they're not even gonna answer the letter, probably. So now we're right back into, you're gonna walk on his property and trespass. We're gonna walk on his property and trespass because he's not gonna give us an answer at all.
And then certainly the likelihood of anyone recovering from this vacant property owner is minimal.
You know, so.
I certainly
hearing
understand,
is
we all
because
understand the dilemma.
What I'm hearing because of money, you know, we're not gonna get involved with this, so it's on you. You spend your own money to cut the tree down, find a lawyer, so that's gonna cost me thousands over some guy who's living in Jersey saying, I don't care. You know, if he's paying his dues, I mean, to me, that's kinda crazy.
Well, we're not saying that he's even paying his dues.
Well, I don't know, nobody would tell me he is or not.
We don't know.
I
Yeah,
know
we
he's
don't
a year
know.
behind in his taxes, but
And-
I don't know.
Eventually, that'll come through the collection procedures to foreclose.
It's likely it'll be foreclosed and come to the POA at some point. Now, the POA maintains its common property as it is obligated to do.
But again, you know, to me, this is a different incident than cutting down a bunch of good trees that, or maybe dead trees that just haven't fell yet.
I understand the challenge. Unfortunately, there are literally hundreds of lots where they have addressed issues with neighbors regarding drainage, regarding landscape, regarding trees.
But that's
And
all-
all of
that has
those, unfortunately, the
drainage,
POA
you
can't
know,
get in the position of solving
You
all
know,
those
to me,
problems.
so let's wait until it falls and damages, and then everybody goes, geez, we're sorry.
You do have some legal recourse, and that's something that I'd advise to speak to counsel.
So, thank you.
That is a tough one. Any others from the residents? Please come to the microphone, please.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
My name is Mary Cushman. I've lived in the village since 1989, and I am disappointed on something that I understand that you're going to be voting on very shortly, and that has to do with flags. I was on the ACC ad hoc committee for 3 years.
Ma'am, we handled that one earlier in the meeting.
What was the answer to that? I was at a previous meeting.
Flags are not signs, and we're consistent with the ruling that has taken place. This would be the
Hallelujah.
third time in 4 years.
Could I read one thing then, so that others may not have read it? This is on page 34 of the ACC Blue Book. Quote, "Should be a visual asset to the property and not bring undue attention," and that's underlined in the Blue Book, "as seen by neighboring properties from the street, golf course, or lake." So I commend you that you are not going to remove it from the Blue Book. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Hallelujah, and thank you. I represent a silent majority of a lot of people here in the village, so they will be very happy. And I think another time when something like this comes up, you should send out a survey to know how many people will support what you have just done. So thank you very much. I appreciate being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others?
Can I
One
make
of
a quick follow-up to Mike's questions about trees and liabilities and other lots? If that, Bob Denny.
This is the Bob Denny.
I'm almost afraid to say it sometimes, but, thank you, good to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity. With the discussion from Mike Shep, I heard the statement that particular lot happens to be in arrears. So what would happen, just my edification, that lot goes back to the POA, and the next day the tree falls on Mike's house? No, I'm just giving the possibility, what if, it's a what if. All right, so now the POA owns it, we own it, it falls on Mike's house because nobody does anything with it. Where's the liability, where's the reparations, what
Yeah, I
happens?
understand. So, and Bob and I, for everybody, we go back a long way, so we're going to banter here a little bit, I'm sure. So can I run my life or you run your life on what ifs, Bob?
Sure.
No, I can't. No, I can't. So we're then going to take on the role, as he talked about, the duty and the responsibility of clearing all trees for all property owners if they so desire, because what if that tree falls? I have one right now on the common property of my house that's leaning. It's going to probably clip my deck as it falls over, but there's a good chance it might not.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to have Clayton come out and clear that one, and while he's doing that one, there's another one. No, I have a problem with the what if.
Sure, but that didn't address my question. My question is specific, and I think it's probably more to Kevin than anybody else.
Sure.
Where does that responsibility lie if it becomes a POA lot?
Responsibility lies with the property owner. And to the extent the POA becomes property owner through, if it accepts a lot, and takes ownership of a lot, then the liability rests with the property owner.
Okay, so then the best case scenario is that lot goes into complete default, POA takes it over, Mike calls Public Works and says, hey, a tree on your lot is ready to fall on my house.
Then
What
we
do you
go
want to
chop
do
it down.
about it?
We'd have a different discussion. We'd have a different discussion.
Okay, thank you. And by the way, his issue did come up on Nextdoor, and I believe the suggestion he got on Nextdoor was bring it to this board in this manner. So you can't completely dismiss the benefit of Nextdoor. It has some good things.
Oh, come on. Yeah, come on.
I'd like to.
All right, any others? With that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion made.
We're adjourned.